Live text access, training for real-time intralingual subtitles. This is Unit 3, IT Competence. In this presentation, we will be dealing with Element 3, how to set up the working environment. In this lesson, we will give you some advice on setting up your hardware and software. The materials for this presentation have been created by Sapti Access, an accessibility service provider from Italy. My name is Enrico Pigliacampo. I am an Italian man with a beard and short hair. I will be displayed in a box in the top right corner of each slide. The learning outcome of this presentation is that the trainee can set up the hardware and software for each type of trained setting and solve problems. During this video lecture, we will give you some tips both for on-site work and remote work. We will also show a couple of examples of working environments, and at the end of the lecture you will find a summary and the exercises. First, we will see all the steps you need to take when you work on site. The setting up of a working environment begins before the actual setting up process itself. Let me explain. Before you set up your hardware and software, you need to choose the best tools for the event in which you will be working. To do this, you must know the place where you will work and how the subtitles will be displayed to the audience. It is possible to identify 4 steps in setting up: venue inspection, tool selection, the actual setting up, and the test you need to do to ensure that everything is working fine. In this presentation, we will be dealing with the first 3 steps. Testing is the topic of Unit 3, Element 3, Learning Outcome 3. The first step is the inspection of the venue, with special attention to be paid to the workstation. This is especially important in cultural events because the subtitler usually works on site and the subtitles are displayed to the audience on a screen. It can also be useful if you work on site in educational settings or in a workplace. When you work for TV or in parliamentary meetings, your subtitles are usually broadcast on TV or online, and the subtitler often works remotely. During your inspection, you must check the location where the event will take place, which we will call the venue, and where you will work, which we will call the workstation. First of all, you have to check how the client wants the subtitles to be displayed: to the whole audience on a screen, which is usually the case for cultural events, or on personal devices such as smartphones, tablets, or computers, which is usually the case in educational settings and in workplaces. If the subtitles are shown to the whole audience on a screen, you also need to know the size of the venue in order to choose the best projector to display the subtitles clearly enough for everyone to see, including those sitting in the last row. In cultural events, you also need to know the stage setup and where the subtitles are going to be projected to ensure that nothing obstructs the view and the audience can always read them. Once you have checked the venue, you will need to check your workstation. This can be a seat in the venue itself or in booths isolated from the audience. This is important for the speaking. If you are seated with the audience, you will need something like a stenomask to cancel out the noise. You can find out what a stenomask is in Unit 3, Element 1, Learning Outcome 1. If you are working in a booth, you must ensure that you can hear what the speakers are saying and that you have a view of what is going on in the venue. You must also ensure that the subtitles are projected properly. Always remember to check where the nearest power points are and make sure to have the right electric cables with you when you are setting up. Once you have a clear idea of the venue and your workstation, you have to select the best tools to provide the best possible service. First of all, you need to check what is available in the venue or already in the client's possession. For example, you may need a screen and a projector. If the client already has them, you will not need to provide them. If not, you need to bring your own. Once you know what you need, you must check what you already have and what you have to buy or rent. You may buy the tools you need or rent them, but you will need time to check what the market has to offer and choose the best tools you can find to meet your needs. Once you have all your tools, the next step is the setting up of both software and hardware. First, you need to set up your software programs. They are set up before the event and you will use them on different occasions. The first thing you have to do is to install the programs, then customize them to improve your quality and speed. We have talked about the installation and customization of software programs in the presentations about input and output tools. Remember to update your programs from time to time to improve your service. Now you have to set up your hardware. First of all, you have to organize your workstation to ensure that all tools are in the right place and easy to reach and use without obstacles. Make sure there is enough light to avoid wasting time in search of what you need. This is important in cultural events where little light may be available in order to focus the attention on the stage. Once your workstation is ready, set up the tools you will use to display the subtitles. These may be already set up in venues where subtitles are used often. In other cases, you may need to set up your screen and place the projector. Once the tools are in place, lay the cables to connect them. Once everything is ready, switch everything on. Now it is time to test your tools and adjust their features to obtain the desired outcome. This is the topic of Unit 3, Element 3, Learning Outcome 3. When you work remotely, the setup is easier as you only need to care for your workstation, which is usually the same for every job you do. In this section, we will give you some tips for you to consider when you work remotely. Anyway, it is important that you know also how to set up the tools on site, as the clients may ask you for help setting up their tools. First of all, you must set up your workstation following the same tips shown on slide 8. The difference between working remotely and working on site is that your workplace stays the same on every occasion and you do not need to set it up every time. You do need to check that your internet connection is good enough to ensure your service is not affected by technical issues. You also need good quality input audio, and it is useful to have a view on what is going on in the event which you are going to subtitle live. Make sure you have a reliable communication channel with your client and with your colleagues if they are working remotely from a different location in case issues arise. In this last section, we will show you a couple of examples of workstations. You will find other setup examples in the LTA YouTube playlists of the other units. This is the workstation of a subtitler who works for TV. They have two monitors connected to the computer, and on the opposite wall there is a TV screen where they can check the outcome. On the monitor on the left, you can also see the noise-cancelling headphones used by the subtitler to get clear sound from the TV. On the desk, there is also a bell used by the editor when they need more time to correct the subtitles. This is another example. On the left, you can see a view of a real-time subtitling booth in which the subtitler, in this case a speaker, and the live editor work. On the right, you can see the desktop with two touchscreen workstations. The editor's touchscreen on the left and the speaker's touchscreen on the right. Behind the two touch screens, there is a TV screen to monitor the final result. In this slide, there are a couple of details from the previous workstation. On the left, soundproof headphones with an external panoramic microphone, and on the right, the editor's pedal that allows them to split the transcript into subtitles and broadcast them on air. The pedal is not used by all subtitlers. It is a specific tool used by professionals who work with the per voice subtitling workstation. Summary. To conclude, always remember that good planning of the setup is important to prevent most technical problems. We have two final tips we want to give you. Make sure you always have backup tools. Things may break anytime and you need to change them if you want to finish your work. Finally, always bear in mind your comfort. You may have to sit down and work for several hours, so it is important for you to be comfortable and focus on your subtitles. Exercises. Exercise 1. On the LTA YouTube channel, you can find many videos where professional subtitlers show their workstation. Watch them and identify the tools used by the subtitlers shown in the videos. Exercise 2. For each work context, cultural events, parliamentary assemblies, broadcasts, workplace, and education, make a list of the tools you need.
LTA Live Text Access, Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona, SDI, Internationale Hochschule, Scuola Superiore per Mediatori Linguistici, ZDF Digital, European Federation of Hard of Hearing People FHO, Velotype, Subti Access, European Certification and Qualification Association ECQA. Co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. Erasmus Plus project 2018-1-DE01-KA203-004218. The information and views set on this presentation are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official opinion of the European Union. Neither the European Union institutions and bodies, nor any person acting on their behalf, may be held responsible for the use which may be made of the information contained here.